and I'm tired of being right.
I never thought anybody could forget so much so fast without a severe blow to the head.
Once it was reluctantly aroused. It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused, but we got it aroused. You have nobody guarding your potatoes. You have nobody guarding your potatoes. We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President, Mike Pence, and his wonderful wife, Karen.
All right. Stop right there, and I'll bring back the sun.
The sportos and motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
All right.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's a dickfer.
What's a dickfer?
To pee with.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Butthole!
Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is. Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Every minute you don't tell us why you're here, I cut off a finger.
Mine or yours?
Yours.
Damn. He thinks I made it up.
Unbelievable.
Moon River. Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
How, in the name of Zeus's butthole, did you get out of your cell?
I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to. And you have to do it.
Just follow the money.
I gotta barbecue your assy molasses!
That's great psychology. Why don't you just say something bad about my mother?
I love lamp.
You're not hearing what I'm saying.
Oh, that's okay, Doc, because you're not saying what I'm hearing.
Am I getting through to you? Over! That was really cool, by the way. That was really cool, by the way. That was really cool, by the way.
I never thought anybody could forget so much so fast without a severe blow to the head.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, it works. It worked. But we're back. Things are back to abnormal. Hi, chat room. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Hi. I see you out there. Everybody, especially newcomers, don't spam the chat and just jam in there trying to get me to see you, because I'm actually talking and doing a show while this is happening. It's not just a chat referential thing. No offense. I appreciate you being here. Just want you to know that. Doesn't mean I'm ignoring you. Just pace yourself. This is, there's a difference between this and game streams, man. We're not all jockeying for position. Who got here first versus who contributes the most is not the volume-wise is not what we're looking for. We're looking for content. We're looking for paying attention. We're looking for camaraderie. We're looking for kindness. We're looking for connection. And we're also keeping it classy. So remember that the whole show, okay? I think you can. I have faith in you. And hello. So yeah. And if you get dumped out because you're spamming the chat, it's on you. It's not the moderators. It's on you. That's your sign. You need to cool out, pace yourself, and breathe deep. See what I'm saying? Goodish. There you go. How is everybody? What's going on with the green? Oh, I've got a bit of a gap over here behind me. That's my fault. That's just when I move the camera. There ends up being a little gap in it. I apologize. I can fix that. You want to see me fix that? I can fix it semi-live right in front of your very eyes. Watch this. How's that? Is that better? There you go. I still gotta have my. I still need this here because I want people to think I'm wearing a shirt with my name on it. I'm so excited by the number of people who actually think that every time. There's a good level of people who get like, is Hal wearing a Hal Sparks shirt? First of all, no, and second of all, yes, it's perfectly fine. So there you go. That's right. It's TV magic. Ernie Kovacs, eat your heart out. So today, we got a piece of magic from Kayleigh McEnany because the president is in hiding. I'm sorry, he's busy working on important things. He's not having a panic attack or at Walter Reed in the basement getting on a ventilator. He's fine. Well, I appreciate the effort, Noel. Thank you, Brian. Welcome. Thanks. Welcome, everybody, to the chat. We're back to abnormal, like I said. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate all the Lab Rats fans who are showing up today. I see you. You're cool. Now, calmly join in the conversation that we're actually talking about. You see how this works. It's just there you go. You can do it. I know you can do it. Okay. Deirdre. Kayleigh McEnany has this like, oh, I have an answer for that. And it's right here on page 666. So yeah, it's stunning when she's like, there's this like glassy moment, and then she answers it from her already established line. She's a pro. She's being a pro about it. And then she does this "how dare you ask me" face, and then turns it on you well, if you cared about dying people, you wouldn't ask a question like that, baby murderer. Like, yeah, it's adorable. What's happening, NCIS 2 Doctor Who? Good to see you. That doesn't flow trippingly off the tongue. I'm going to call you Doc. That's how it's going to work. Hal, you're great on Sexy Liberal Show. Thank you, Deborah. That was really fun. There's going to be more of that on its way. I'm already, like I said, I'm working on bits for the next one. I'm very excited. My goal is to one man in my own space outdo SNL. So far, it hasn't been hard. But there we go. Michelangelo Signorelli used a poor choice of words when he said Trump was the one hemorrhaging when tweeting about the 70-year-old man who's pushing and cracked his skull. I mean, yes, Patreons, we do need you to assemble. Thank you for listening, Richard Cusser. I'm not. I don't know. Did he get slammed for that? Because I'm not going to get tied up in that. And thank you, Halle Berry. You can't get too. Thanks, Audrey. You can't get too bound up by people's linguistic choices in this situation because we're in double entendre hell right now. Just the number of sensitive issues, the sheer amount of glass and tacks on the floor when everybody is barefoot is overwhelming. Yes, I know that he was bleeding from the ear. I think he was referencing that specifically, going, here's a man with a real brain injury, and look who's acting like he's had his head banged on the concrete, that kind of thing. And because he's recovering, I think it maybe felt better than that. I mean, he's a good dude. I'm not worried about that. Like, I think we need to. I thought it was unintentionally funny, not criticizing. I see, gotcha. All right. Then it may not have been a poor choice of words. He may have been trying to be funny, and it was just too dry for the room. It was, is Trump hiding in his bunker? That's what I think. I think he's back to being, although They are dismantling the wall because and you know we're going to hear stories from how the fencing, let's see if I can find White House removed. They're bringing it down. Yeah, well, Fox News, 22 hours ago, Secret Service says White House fencing will start to be removed. You think? They've already started doing it this morning. You can tell the president just wigged out about how this made him look. I'll see if I can find a piece of video about it that's on, a site that doesn't run ads on me. There's the Post. There's, yeah, we'll see if I'll see if I can keep the. I don't want that. I want it on YouTube so that I don't have to worry about the craziness. Yeah. Also, there's a quote in this one that I wasn't 100% sure, by the way, came from Kaylee. So we'll see if she actually says it in this or if she says it like after if she says it like in a quote elsewhere. But I hope she says it in this. Because it's glorious. White House. There we go. Fence. There you go. Because the fence. Oh, whoops. Did I spell? Can I spell fence? Am I capable of doing that? There we go. Yeah. We'll. There's mostly videos of it going up rather than it coming down. What a weird thing. The AP Archive says White House fence project obscures tourist view. Man, remember, were we ever so young when that was the problem? Good Lord. So I'll find it while we're looking into this kind of thing. Because hold on. Why? Let's see. Removed. Big eye. I literally have to stop typing with just my thumbs. And maybe it's being removed. What will give me the search results? Nope, I'll find it later because they're going to charge me. It's going to run an ad. And it's going to be annoying and whatever. So let's jump to Kaylee, shall we? And is there now? Is shoulderless just is this now the woman uniform? By the way, the theory would be that the lies aren't as egregious today because she's showing her crucifix. Now, it also might be a collar thing. I have this theory that that when the lies are really bad, she tucks her crucifix. So, like, just Jesus, you're not gonna want to see this. It's like draping a cloth over the Jesus on your dresser when you're having sex for the first time. Like, I can't have you watching me. This is so wrong. So, thanks, Philly Dana. We consider me alerted. So, and by the way, welcome, trollers. Thanks for boosting my numbers and contributing to our viewership. It's good. It gives us numbers, and I appreciate it. When they called out Michelle Obama for that, no sleeves. Oh, I know. Yeah, she's showing the cross today. So in theory, the lies will be less egregious. I have a feeling my theory about that is going to be tested today. I'm going to go out on a limb. And I don't blame her. I blame the Book of Lies. She reads from a binder of lies. Berlin Barbie strikes again. Here we go. This is going to be a joy. I can just tell.
There's Fort Bragg in North Carolina, Fort Hood in Texas, Fort Benning in Georgia, and the list.
Why do they always start like? It says stand by for live video, and it's like springs it on them like they weren't ready.
Of our legendary military bases, such as Fort Bragg in North Carolina, Fort Hood in Texas, Fort Benning in Georgia, and the list goes on.
Of course, Fort Hood, named after what good Americans wear when they burn a cross, and Fort Bragg is how they talk about it with their friends.
These monumental and very powerful bases have become.
Oh, you could tell he was part of the crafting. Very powerful bases. Make sure you put in that the bases are important and powerful.
Part of a great American heritage and a history.
No. The people who go through there, the people who have trained there, the people who have served there, they're the heritage, not the name of the damn place. Secondly, if you're naming American bases after Civil War Confederate leaders, then basically you're allowing enemy flags on our military bases, are you not? How would the German people feel if the soldiers that fight with the UN forces bringing peace to many places on the earth, how embarrassed would they be if they could not deploy from the Adolf Himmler group home for boys? All the people who were raised there must feel very badly that we want to tear this place down and name it after some person who is like a French sympathizer.
History of winning, victory, and freedom.
No. See, Confederate names are the exact opposite. Losing, I don't winning and victory, but they needed that twice. And freedom, piss off. They were the pro-slavery side. Are you drunk? They couldn't be more anti-freedom.
The United States of America trained and deployed our heroes here and won 2 world wars.
Yeah. After the Civil War, why the shit are those named after people? Where's the people who went to Benedict Arnold Base should feel joy in their heart when they wear that badge on their uniform instead of like shit.
Therefore, my administration will not even consider.
See, this is his direct statement. Very proud. Therefore, my administration, weak on crime, soft on war.
Consider the renaming of these magnificent and fabled military installations.
Fabled.
Well, gather around, children, as we tell you a story about Fort Bragg. There was once a little bunny rabbit who ran across there. He was a persnickety little fellow, and every day he would store as many carrots as he could possibly do. And then one day he saw a soldier with a cast on his arm, peeling carrots. And instead of stealing those carrots that day, the rabbit chipped in for the war effort. It's a wonderful story. Enjoy. Buy war bonds.
Our history as the greatest nation in the world will.
No. If you're saying our history is the greatest nation in the world, you are speaking from the voice of the Confederacy right now, you dipshit. Like, again, you know how I've been talking about this doublespeak crap? When they're like, well, it was a terrible thing that happened in Minneapolis. You mean the killing of George Floyd? No, I mean the fact that they charged this guy with murder. But I don't want to say that part, so I'll half-ass it. This is the same thing. These are emblems of the greatest nation that ever, like, they mean the Confederacy. They don't mean America. They don't mean the United States. They mean, she's saying the Confederacy deserves these monuments. Criminy.
Tampered with. Respect our military.
We do respect our military. So much so that we do not want them training in bases named after people who attacked the country. Unless you're planning on opening, Mohammed Atta base in Texas and Hirohito Air Force training facility in Southern California, and the King George Naval Academy in Baltimore.
So that was directly from the president. We spent some time working on that, and I wanted to deliver that to you. Also, I wanted to take us through.
She's not talking about white America. She's talking about South America. She's talking about the Southern America, not South America. The Southern America, the Confederacy. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up in Kentucky. Kentucky was a divided state. Families had sons dying on opposite sides of the war. It tore families apart. The North lost hundreds of thousands of their white citizens, their Irish citizens, their Scottish, their German citizens, fighting to end slavery. She's not fighting for white people. She's fighting for the Confederacy.
Other things relating to the coronavirus. First, the coronavirus task force briefing was held yesterday. I was in it, and there was some very good news that I'd like to share with you. I don't know if you all saw, there were 2 studies that came out, very strong studies in the journal Nature.
Very strong studies. They were strong. They stared really hard.
And in Europe, which had a very similar epidemic profile to the United States, 3.1 million lives were saved due to mitigation.
Right. And if we'd have started it a week earlier, hundreds of thousands would have started. They dragged him kicking and screaming. Again, this is the bullshit of like, you have to understand, if we'd have done nothing, you all would be dead now. So you need to kiss my ass.
And the efforts taken by the European governments. And as Dr. Birx noted to me, she sent this to me just before I walked out here. She said it suggests that the United States also prevented over 3 million deaths. Thanks to that.
By doing anything. By the American people hiding in their homes for weeks and weeks on end.
Efforts of President Trump and the American people. Another study found that the shutdown efforts prevented 50 million additional coronavirus cases. So those are two very encouraging studies underscoring the work of the American people.
Yeah, the American people. Not, by the way, Daughters of the Confederacy, who, along with their counterparts, seem to be all about like opening it and freeballing it and just see what happens. Come on, you can't make an omelet without breaking some old people and maybe some children and possibly people in their 40s and 30s. I mean, I don't really keep track of whatever. Where's past the beer?
Also, the Washington Post noted that these two reports use completely different methods to reach similar conclusions. They suggest that the aggressive and unprecedented shutdowns were effective at halting the exponential spread of the novel coronavirus. So thank you, Washington Post, for that good reporting.
And by the way, they also noted, the Washington Post, along with the New York Times and every other paper that's paid any attention, that the reason the death rate and the hospitalization rate has stagnated is not because it's going down. It's because New York and all the places that practice mitigation and are having their cases dwindle are being compensated by the red states that are allowing their states to spike, and a bunch of people are dying and nobody gives a shit. And this is Trump's base. And here's the weird part about this, and the part that I mean, this is why Sean Hannity came out on his show and was like, it's not a good idea that the people in the Ozarks are running around together. Everybody was like, suddenly he gives a shit about human life. No. What they've realized is that while through mitigatory actions, wearing masks, cleaning surfaces, cleaning your hands, coughing into your elbow, staying home if you're sick, all the other stuff that everybody knows now is sensible behavior, wearing a mask when you're out in public if you have symptoms or if you think you might be around places that might, even in general, like the loosest version of that, which everybody in blue states are starting to do. The red states have blown off from the start. So what's going to happen is, as the blue states continues to go down and reach a moderate level where hospitalizations are low enough where they can actually handle people, the red states aren't, and they're going to continue to go up, and they're going to spike, and then they're going to have panics, and their economies are going to ebb and flow, and the shit's going to hit the fan in the red states this fall. Because as bad as the impact is right now, and we're going to have 120,000 dead in the next 2 weeks, by September, mid-September, you're going to see the seasonal rate start to kick up, and it's going to be worse in red states. And these guys know it. They know it. And they're panicking because it's going to be red states that don't show up for the vote. And it's not going to be the blue voters in those states. You're going to have a bunch of states turn purple because these assholes are letting their own voters turn blue.
The Department of Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue also...
That was pretty tight. That whole rant right there was pretty tight. I'm just saying, I pat myself on the back, but I'm sore because my son and I played Ring Fit on the Twitch, and it was great.
Had some very good news in the task
video to come.
Force briefing I was at yesterday. America's meatpacking facilities, at one time it looked like they were going to need to close. That was unacceptable to the administration. So we took action. The Coronavirus Task Force took action. And now I'm pleased to report that these meatpacking facilities are operating at 95% capacity compared to 2019. We have beef operating at 98% capacity, pork at 95%, and poultry at 98%. Throughout America's extraordinary efforts to...
Yeah, we're not worried about output. We're worried that the workers are going to die.
The spread, President Trump ensured that the meat supply.
By the way, I think the whole we'll talk about Gone with the Wind and all that nonsense in a minute. I'm very concerned about this like poetic and hopeful rewriting of history, the sort of Tarantinoing of history that makes people forget the struggle of black people. And you have movies like Gone with the Wind, which show the sort of through the modern lens, so show the absurdity of that circumstance. And if you take those kind of things away, there's a whole generation of people like, black people never had it that bad. They haven't had it that bad because their actual history in their own lives doesn't go past 1995 when they were born. And they have all the movies that they're seeing and stuff. Everybody is of relative equality except something that seems like it was 200 years ago. And this is an app related, like an mentality, an app focused mentality. They're going to think it was never a big deal, and they're like, what are people whinging about? That's my concern.
Supply chain stayed functional,
have the history, show it, and give context.
Robust by directing these meatpacking facilities to safely operate.
I mean, she's doing it with the Confederacy. Like, these people represent victory and winning and freedom. Like, are you kidding me?
In accordance with the CDC and OSHA guidelines. His efforts secured America's continual access to a steady food supply chain. And then finally, and very importantly, I have some great data points to share on coronavirus testing capacity in minority communities. Admiral Brett Joie shared this with me yesterday and last night as well. He said,
those, by the way, those eyelashes look totally real and not hookery at all.
That when we look at testing sites, President Trump's public-private partnership with retail companies has proven quite successful. Testing sites are operating in 49 states, with 70% of these sites located in communities with moderate to high social vulnerabilities. And
moderate to high social vulnerability, meaning black and brown areas. Again, did you hear the key word there? Retail. Retail. Guess which administration has been denying people the ability to join the ACA, for example, who might actually have their insurance pay for this kind of thing. With all these insurance companies are going to zero out the cost of it for people who have insurance. These assholes are opening up retail sites.
Vulnerability takes into account race, ethnicity, housing and economics, language barriers, and other factors.
And by that we mean Appalachia. Because those poor people, oh my God.
Also, federally qualified health senators, they're FQHC.
Health senators? Centers. Happens to anybody.
29 million patients in 12.
Patients? Okay. Getting ahead of ourselves.
1,000 communities across the nation. They provide care to 1 in 5 of those uninsured, 1 in 5 of rural Americans, 1 in 3 of individuals below the poverty line, and more than 1.3 million homeless men and women, and nearly 1 million migrant agricultural workers. And 92% of these FQHCs now offer COVID tests, and we've awarded them $583 million to
Oh, have we? Have we? Have we? Or is it in the CARES Act and the bill that he signed and wagged like he came up with the plan?
1,385 of these facilities.
Okay. Is the administration just going to take credit for everything that comes from the Democrats on the House floor and then pretend they invented it?
Finally, I promised my last announcement. The HHS Office of Minority Health issued a competitive funding
there's a question in the chat room. Has anyone ever left West Virginia? Well, if you've ever seen Dude, Where's My Car and Alias, the answer is yes.
Opportunity to build a strategic network of national, state, territory, tribal, local, and community-based organizations that deliver vital health information and support linkages to services for racial and ethnic minorities. And this announcement, this network is scheduled.
Like, she just can't read this from the heart at all.
To be awarded at the end of June and is expected to reach at least 40 million individuals from
the end of June, and is expected to reach 40 million. Oh, I feel so much better. And here I thought you were talking about stuff that has actually happened.
Racial and ethnic minorities.
In a very short period of time, everything will be made clear.
Updates, I was told by Brett Joie, were received very well at the Senate hearings. And we thank the Vice President.
What do you think, they were rejected at the Senate hearings? Let me guess. If there was one senator who was against it, gee, I wonder what party they belong to and whether or not they had a squirrel on their frigging head.
Mike Pence for doing an amazing job.
Thanks very much. I'm still down here below, hidden in the... Don't tell Mother I'm here.
Leading our coronavirus task force into President Trump, who has led in bringing America through the coronavirus pandemic. And with that, I'll take questions.
Yeah. Are we through it? We're through it now. Okay. Thanks, Kaylee. Great. Okay, pack it up. Everybody, that's it. Let's just pack it up. Have a long weekend.
Does the president regret tweeting out a baseless conspiracy theory about a 75-year-old protester on the morning of George Floyd's funeral?
The president was asking questions about an interaction in a video clip he saw, and the president has the right to ask those questions.
He has the right to, it's the United States you have the right to do a lot of things. It's not like, she's asking whether it's smart, moral, good leadership, and obviously look at the eyes closing. Lift me, Jesus. Pray, take me through the valley of the shadow of lies.
You regret tweeting out this protester was assaulted.
The president does not regret standing up for law enforcement men and women across this country. And let me say this, and just give you a little bit about the mindset behind the president's tweet. Look,
okay. First of all, citation needed.
we're living in a moment that is, it seems to be reflexively anti-police officer. And it's unacceptable to the president. In this tweet that he sent out, he was
not reflexively anti-police officer. There are people who are reflexively anti-police officer, no question. Not in this case, however. They didn't say broom out all the cops in Buffalo. Those guys got suspended. We think the supervisor, whoever it was that pushed them on, should have been included in that. Nobody was like, cops have to go in Buffalo. There's no people walking around, get rid of the... Oh, my God.
condoning violence. He was not passing judgment on these
Yes, he was.
officers in particular. But what he was saying is this. When we see a brief snippet of a video, it's incumbent upon reporters and those who are surveying the situation to ask.
To go to something that Alex Jones says, close their eyes, get on their knees, open their mouth, and wait for instructions.
Questions. Rather,
upon the president to have facts before he tweets anything out. He's the president of the United States.
Yeah, but he's not really, is he? I mean, honestly. Right now, he's just a person that we are containing until we can release him back into the wild. He's like when a chimp turns 15.
the president did have facts before he tweeted out.
He was so adorable at one point, and he'd stick his finger in his butt and sniff it and fall over, and we'd all laugh at Trump's antics. And now he's at the part where he'll tear your face off, and we have to pretend we never had him as a pet. Thank you, Natalie.
That undergirded his questions.
Baseless conspiracy theory. Do
It's
you
not a
acknowledge
baseless
that?
conspiracy.
Yeah, it is.
No, not at all. I won't acknowledge
Yeah, it is.
that because look, let's contrast this to the George Floyd situation, which that horrific video that we all saw. Every single police officer that I saw across the country came out and said,
Thanks, Hal Vickery. Good to see you.
this is an inexcusable action, and I condemn this police officer. In this case, there were 57 police officers who said, I resign in protest over the way these two officers were handled. And the president says those law enforcement officers have a right to be heard.
Yeah, that's different than saying it was a conspiracy. You can listen to 57 assholes, and not all of them, by the way, resigned because of that. That's the other case. Like, this is the problem with people rushing the story sometimes. A big bunch of these officers resigned because their union no longer will indemnify them against stuff. Now, that's like saying as a doctor, if you were denied your ability to by the AMA, you could still practice medicine, but you can't have malpractice insurance. You would just cease to practice. There's no way it makes any sense to continue practicing medicine if you're not allowed to have malpractice insurance even if you're a great doctor. It's ridiculous. And the idea that cops aren't falsely accused of excessive force along with the cases that are genuine is absurd too. That's why you have that there. That's why it pays legal fees. If they turn out to be guilty, they can still go to jail. The union just said, we're not doing it anymore because of these two guys. And a bunch of them, not the ones who were applauding when they got arraigned and split, left because they can't afford to be on the riot team anymore. They're still cops, but they can't afford to be on the riot team because the riot team's not covered anymore. And they're not going to go be on the riot team if it's not covered with indemnity because they're being told military level orders. You guys all have to stand here. Anybody moves past this line, you got to hit them with a stick and knock them back. So they're not going to show up. I'm not going to join that team if you're going to make me do stuff that's going to get me sued and you're not going to let me push back. That's the thing. And so allowing that storyline to carry that all 57 of them resign in protest because of what happened to those cops puts all those people in the corner of those cops and makes the support for those cops look higher than it actually is. And that's part of her story as well.
Do you think that anything justifies that 75-year-old man being pushed down to the ground like we all saw?
The president does not condone violence. He wants.
He does not condone violence. He offered to pay the legal bills of people who would beat up protesters at his own rallies. He told the cops at a speech to police officers, don't be too nice when you're putting them in the car. Shove them, don't protect their head. All this that doesn't condone violence. We're going to bomb the crap out of those people. We'll be back there with fire and fury. And are you kidding me? Doesn't condone violence. Dude can't get a boner without it.
See the appropriate amount of police force used in any given situation, including this one, but he believes that the officers have a right to be heard.
George Floyd's brother is here testifying. Has the White House invited him here to meet with the president?
The president has repeatedly acknowledged George Floyd, his passing, the egregiousness of that atrocity, and has called the family by phone, as he did last week. Yes.
The president has got an event tomorrow in Dallas.
Excuse me. Pardon me.
At a church in which he'll meet with faith leaders. He'll also meet with law enforcement officials, small business owners. The theme is a plan for holistic revitalization and recovery. Will the president be announcing any policy in regards to police reform tomorrow, and what might that policy?
Oh, tomorrow's going to be good. See you at 3 o'clock tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, so that's a very important question.
Let me turn in my binder of lies.
And as it stands currently, the president has spent the last 10 days quietly and diligently working on proposals to address the issues that the protesters have raised across the country.
The president, has been working quietly and diligently. I mean, just feel that for a moment. I mean, you might want to tuck the cross right now. Quietly and diligently. Get effed.
Legitimate issues. And that body of work, I'm told, is reaching its final edits, and we hope.
The body of work of the president's quiet and diligent work. He has been working quietly and diligently on a body of work that will stun us all.
To produce it for you in the coming days. I can't.
We hope to produce it for you in the coming days. Was this? I can't promise.
Promise you it's tomorrow, but.
Yeah, it's not gonna be tomorrow. Sorry. Yeah.
In the coming days, we look to deliver that.
In a very short. Tell him it's coming in a very short period of time. I'm working very quietly. Shh. And diligently. Someone throw a blanket over my typewriter so I don't keep Melania up. Is she still in New York with the security guy from Tiffany's? Boy, Barron sure looks like him. Anyways, tickety-tappity-tickety-tap. Schling. Anyways, Jews. Right.
Will tomorrow be about? Will it be a listening session as he had on Monday with?
Oh, yeah, let's have a roundtable listening session.
So is there a difference between certain, I know I've learned in the last couple weeks that an Idaho potato can be grown in Maryland and in Connecticut, but they don't. They sell bags, 5-pound bags, but they could sell those. But Russet is the name of the guy I think we talked to, right? Is that his name, Russet? he said they do little purple potatoes, the kind we serve at Mar-a-Lago, and then the poor people eat the brown, poop-looking giant potatoes that make you weak, right? And they grow those in Idaho. Fantastic job they're doing. And so I've learned that. And lobsters, the Maine lobster and the Canadian lobster, I've learned are very similar lobster and they're lobstering. So in listening to the session, so like those two situations, black people all think alike? Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go listen to Candace Owen and she'll tell me what you guys think. Okay, bye.
Law enforcement, or might there actually be some concrete
Thanks, Alan.
proposals?
Yeah, it will be a round.
It could at least be done at the executive level.
It will be a roundtable, much like what you saw with law
Great.
enforcement officers earlier in the week.
Except with less with less agreement.
And if I could just stay on that theme.
Do you have to? Here we go. She's gonna be so great when she's old. More of that bullshit? I see. You're the one that made me renounce Jesus.
Second, in terms of...
I have to go back to page 1 to the appendix of... I've got to go to the table of contents of lies.
Reform ideas that the president could support. Democrats have floated some in the House. Senate Republicans, led by Tim Scott, are working on others. Things like banning chokeholds, banning no-knock warrants, independent process to investigate misconduct. Could the president support issues like that?
So again, don't want to get ahead of the announcements. What I would say is each issue is being looked at as to what would make a difference. Everything that you've suggested has certain ramifications, so he has to look at.
Is the tip of her nose browner than usual? Is it too much contouring? Or I think it's too much contouring. I think she's got uneven application of the contouring today. Or it was, never mind.
Each of these in great detail as he's done over the last few days. And I would just note one thing that AG Barr said was that in the Democrat bill, they talked about needing to reduce immunity to go after bad cops, but that would result in police pulling back. So that is one thing that is a non-starter.
So is that, it's called qualified immunity.
Yes.
Is that a red line for the president?
That's a non-starter in the Democrat legislation. Yes, John.
A non-starter. Yes, John. In the non-starter, we're not stepping past that. Yeah.
I believe there's a problem with institutional racism in this country and institutional racism in law enforcement.
Look, I've answered this question. I think this is the 4th time I've been asked it, and I've said each and every time, there are injustices that we have seen. Clearly, that tape of George
Brown noses matter.
Floyd was
Sorry.
inexcusable, gut-wrenching, difficult to watch, and it was really a beautiful funeral yesterday.
Hi, dog. If there can be one, I will try.
All the great testimonies to his life. We recognize those injustices. Sandra Bland, another example. But this president knows fundamentally that most police officers in this country are good, that the 750 men and women that have been injured, that David Dorn, the police officer who was killed, and Patrick Underwood, the law enforcement officer who was killed, are emblematic of what police in this country stand for. That is the best, that is the brightest, and that is our domestic heroes. Yes.
The reason why I'm asking it now is, does he believe that action needs to be taken to fundamentally change the way law enforcement is done in this country, to make fundamental changes so that there...
Look, you want to fix one thing that would change so much of the interactions that we have in this country. Go back in time to when Reagan destroyed the mental health substructure of this entire country. And cops now are first on the scene to people who are out of their minds on drugs or are mentally unstable and threatening self-harm. We used to send orderlies and crisis counselors and negotiators to places like that, people with a psychological background. And now cops are the brooms where we ignore the worst part of our society, where we the ugliest parts, not worse, but you know what I mean, the most difficult to look at parts of society. We just pretend it doesn't exist. And so when you roll up on a car, like I said yesterday, with 2 people dead from fentanyl in it, and you smash the window because you're there to save lives, and the cop that smashes the window gets a dose of fentanyl that sends him to the hospital or her to the hospital, and they end up dying from it, which happens all the time. Why did they stop? Because Reagan stopped it. The deinstitutionalization aspect was a huge, like, weird freedom thing that they were going through in the 80s for whatever reason. They had this panic that suddenly they were gonna, you know how modern Republicans think about FEMA camps and that you're gonna get rounded up and all that shit. Well, they thought the same thing about mental institutions, that they thought, oh, they're gonna scoop me up, put me in a loony bin for being conservative, that kind of thing, or thinking that the Confederacy should have won. And so they were against it, and there was all these extra rules added. Like homelessness went through the roof because of that. It was triggered by that. That's why we started with like, if you saw Comic Relief basically began a year and a half after that because of the homelessness spike in the country.
The kind of disparities that we see along racial lines.
Well, the president's looking at various proposals, and
that's right, Carl.
I would say this president has done a whole lot more than Democrats have ever done when it comes to rectifying injustices.
You look back at the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and even the 60s. The white van. Remember, they're going to come and take you to the nut house, and the people with the butterfly nets, and it was a joke in old cartoons. That's who they used to send if you were nuts, if you were drugged out of your mind, if you were threatening self-harm, if you were suicidal or whatever. They took you to an institution. Like, look at the Quiet Riot music video, mental health. Like, he's literally in a straitjacket. The idea is that they used to come and put you in a straitjacket and zap you with Thorazine and let you cool off. And you had medical professionals come do that. Now cops are doing it. And they're doing it in the age of AIDS and now COVID-19. One of the reasons why cop violence spiked also from the 90s going forward was because they kept telling you, like, don't touch these people, because most of them are, especially needle users. Like, you put your hand in their pocket and you get punctured by a needle. That's why they ask people, is there anything sharp in your pocket I'm going to cut myself on? They're talking about needles. And cops getting HIV or getting poisoned by what they, get hit with when they frisk somebody became an increasingly a problem. So nobody wants to touch anybody anymore. So they want to tase the crap out of them or shoot them. But then there's these wrestling dudes who just want to jump in and choke somebody out. That's the other half of it. But that's one of the reasons. So you want to fix something? Fix that shit. Set up mental institutions and a huge mental health infrastructure in this country, and have people go to situations. Have 911 when you call it. If you go, my son's freaking out, he's on drugs, and I think he's going to hurt himself. Don't send cops. Send EMTs in case he does, and people from a mental institution or from the fifth floor of the hospital, where they often take you for localized mental health crises, and have them talk him down. Have professionals do that. So there you go.
The crime bill of the 90s, which created great racial disparities in our justice system, and President Trump rectified some of those with the First Step Act. So President Trump's about action, and he's shown that, and he recognizes injustices and acts promptly when he sees them. Yes. Yeah,
sure. He acts promptly when he sees injustices. Like I don't know, the Turkey, Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia interjecting in our elections, like that kind of injustice. The lack of voting, federal, by the way, voting ability in certain states, that kind of injustice.
Does the President agree with the recent announcements from the Marines and Navy about their policies banning the display of the Confederate flag?
So I haven't spoken to him on that specific one. He does, as I noted at the top of this briefing, fervently stand against the renaming of our forts, these great American fortresses where literally some of these men and women who lost their lives as they went out to Europe and Afghanistan and Iraq and all across this world to win world wars on behalf of freedom. A lot of times the very last place they saw was one of these forts.
Yeah. So rename it after an American hero. How about one of them? Here's a good idea. Pick somebody who was killed in the Iraq or Afghanistan wars, or here's a good idea, someone who's still alive but with traumatic brain injury, who's emblematic of all the soldiers that were harmed, somebody who got the Congressional Medal of Honor after they had their head blown half off because they were given inadequate gear and driven straight into a field full of IEDs because nobody gave a shit. Maybe name it after them. How about that? Give hope to the soldiers that, you know, if they sacrifice their lives, we're gonna remember them, not just the USS Senator from Oklahoma and the fucking leftover base named after some asshole from the Confederacy. Are you shitting me?
I mean, to suggest.
Yeah, Pat Tillman. How about that? Tillman Air Force Base, Tillman Army Base. Like, seriously. Wouldn't you rather have deployed from Tillman on there than some dickhead from the Confederacy that declared war on the states?
These forts were
Good
somehow
God.
inherently racist and their names need to be changed.
Yeah.
Is a complete disrespect to the men and women who the last bit of American land they saw before they went overseas and lost their lives were these forts.
What? How? Was the... No. What if they were... Yeah, I'm gonna shock her right now. I'm gonna freak her out. Let's see. There were Black and Native American soldiers and Hispanic soldiers in those groups whom the Confederacy would have sought to continue enslaving. Little awkward for those folks. And guess what? There were a shit ton of white people who deployed from those bases, who knew the history and wished their base was named after an American hero instead of a Confederate hero. Dumbass.
So an ex-judge appointed to review the Flynn case said the Justice Department has engaged in highly irregular conduct to benefit a political ally of the president, and he urged the presiding judge in the case to deny attempt by the government to dismiss the charges. What is the White House reaction?
That's the first I'm hearing of that. I'd point you to DOJ on that. Jeff.
Thanks, Gailey. Congressional Republicans,
I'm sorry, that's not in my binder of lies, so skip it.
including Congresswoman Liz Cheney, have criticized the president's decision to...
I try to keep you guys entertained and enlightened while we do this, and, you know, we can pace ourselves and get through it, but, you know, we need to know this stuff. It's our country. We need to watch this stuff, but we don't have to act like it's actually sane or good.
reduce the number...
Honestly, I don't understand the confusion at all about Confederate bases named after Confederate heroes and Confederate statues. Piss off. If you want to find me a Confederate general who switched sides and fought for the North, how about a statue of him? I bet they're not going to act like that's a qualified statue to have in replacement. How do you think she would feel? Here's a good idea. How about some statues to abolitionists? White abolitionists who gave their lives to free someone they never met. How about that? You think that'll be an adequate replacement for a white hero of the South?
U.S. troops in Germany, some saying that it will embolden Russia.
We need a Fort Arnold right now. This is the type.
I think you should name bases after the Nazi regime, Himmler Air Force Base. Well, that's exactly it. That's the ridiculous. Robert E. Lee never wanted statues up in his honor. Right, because he was as embarrassed as we are of him.
If the United States does that, did the president make that decision to punish Chancellor Merkel for deciding not to come to the G7 in June?
Look, I have no announcements on that front, and he never makes decisions to punish certain world leaders.
That's just flat out bullshit. You might want to tuck the cross.
In the best interest
Ask Volodymyr Zelensky about that.
of the United States. Yes.
Follow up on another issue.
Sorry, Zelensky.
With regard to the tweet, one of the things that the president said in his tweet was that the gentleman...
I can't believe we have sentences like that. This is how shitty things have gone. One of the things the president said in the tweet was that good God.
Fell harder than he was pushed. How does that work in terms of physics?
Have you not watched Building 7 videos? Do you not know that molten knees can... All right.
Look, the president raised several questions based on
How do we know that the CIA wasn't hiding documents about the Bay of Pigs in that old man's back pockets? And he was...
where he saw, he has a right to ask those questions, and where he...
Everyone has a right to ask the questions. It doesn't mean they're smart, good, or logical.
...stands is squarely with...
The president has the right to ask questions that make him look like a total scumbag and a sucker.
Law enforcement, he was making no judgments, not condoning violence, not...
Just insisting that a single U.S. citizen, 75 years old, planned, like, put a fake little bag of blood in his ear and then went, there, you watch them, they're going to push me. I know it's going to happen.
Saying
The president also thinks that the people on Golden Pond had it coming. Lefties all the way. They should have both drowned in the boat.
happened in this case with these two officers was right or wrong, but he's standing back and saying we need to ask questions
Thanks,
before
Georgina.
we destroy lives and convict people.
Before we destroy lives. The president is destroying this man's life by suggesting that he is basically a one-man Sandy Hook fake.
Court of public opinion. Yeah.
I'm just suggesting he's a crisis actor and he should get death threats. What's wrong with that?
This is Kelly. Two questions on the economy. First of all, both the chair of the Federal Reserve and Steve Mnuchin said
Let me turn to Chapter 6, Lies About the Economy.
the U.S. will definitely need another round of stimulus. How urgent is that for the president? I mean,
Stimulus.
how soon do we expect
Thanks,
him to meet
Georgina.
with Democrats to discuss the next legislation?
Yeah, it's a good question. He met on a potential Phase 4 policy last week. It was a very promising discussion with his economic advisors. So that's in the works as to when and if we see that, but it is a topic of discussion. He was encouraged
Oh, you bet your ass there's going to be another one.
by the jobs report. We were supposed to lose 7.5 million jobs. We ended up gaining 2.5 million, a
No, we didn't.
swing by 10 million.
No, we didn't.
And it was described to me as one of the, by one famed economist, as one of the worst miscalculations of economists in history to be off by 10 million. That's the size of Michigan. So the president's encouraged because what we're seeing is a belief in the Trump economy and the Trump presidency. What we're seeing is the market soar. We're seeing the S&P have its best 50-day track record in history because
it hit the bottom, because it was floored out.
believe in a
You want to go toe to toe with the Obama recovery? You want to start making those kind of comparisons? You also want to make the case that the economy's recovering and things are roaring back because we supposedly gained 3 million jobs as states reopened, many of them too early and causing a spike in the cases in those states. You really want to go there when it cost you $6 trillion? When you dump, this is the part that drives me crazy about this narrative. You dump the entire budget for the Iraq and Afghanistan wars on the American economy in 6 weeks. You damn straight it ought to turn around quickly. And it still isn't.
president that has free market policies that got us to the hottest economy in modern history and will get us there again. Yeah.
The hottest economy in modern history, on complete normal track with every economic indicator since 2010.
The Federal Reserve today offered a pretty grim economic outlook, saying unemployment is going to be elevated for years. And also this week, we heard from the National Bureau of Economics research saying that the U.S. officially entered a recession. What is the White House response?
In February, during the magic economy, before you could blame COVID-19.
We believe that next month's jobs report will be robust. The president...
Because people are going to go back to the jobs they had. There's going to be 5 million jobs where people go back to work. They're going to claim it as jobs created, and we're still going to be behind by 13 million jobs.
It's been clear that Q4, he expects Q3 to be a transition period, Q4 to be robust, and next year to be a very...
Yeah, we've heard this story. Then why do we need him? If it's going to be like that anyways, it's pretty much on autopilot. Why don't we just put Biden in there?
Hot year, and I would note that those in the prediction business, they were off by 10 million. That's not too good. So I'd go back and look at some of the models that were off and how extraordinary the jobs report was last time,
Totally, Rob.
300,000 new jobs for Black Americans. Yes.
Thank you so much. The president...
She's having that moment like, I'm almost done with this.
Mitch McConnell today, we understand. Can you kind of fill us in on what that discussion was about? Any updates?
So I have no announcements on that front. Those were his private meetings, so no announcements out of that.
Can I just add to Jonathan's question? You know, a lot of people are concerned that there is, you mentioned justice disparities. There's a lot of concern of some Americans that police officers treat Black individuals and people of color differently than white individuals. Does the president share those specific concerns?
Here's what he's concerned about.
Orange Lives Matter.
That's what I feel like. Really, we need to say. I mean, the FBI, clearly because I'm a person of orange.
He's concerned about what and I've told you he's addressed injustices with Sandra Bland and George Floyd and has repeatedly acknowledged that. But here is, in addition to that, his concern, put very well by New York's Police Benevolent Association President Mike O'Meara. Our legislators are failing us. Our press is vilifying us. He's saying us as police officers, stop treating us like animals and thugs. We've been vilified, and it's disgusting. When you have a sitting congressman, Ilhan Omar, calling cops cancer, what do you think that leads to? The AP reported on a shooting in front of a police department today in California. Let's stop vilifying our officers. Let's recognize.
Did she really say they're a cancer, or did she say there's a cancer in the policing? Or just police in general are a cancer?
Justice where we see it, but recognize.
Is that not the, like, is that her trying to out Milo Yiannopoulos, him with the feminism is cancer idea?
All of us in here
Are we're just ping-ponging the word cancer back and forth?
are safe because of our police officers doing their job each and every day.
I understand that, but there are concerns among many Americans that people of color are not treated the same by police, and that is what many of the protests have been about. Does the president share those specific concerns?
The president believes most of our police officers are good, hardworking men and women, like David Dorn, who was killed among these riots, like Patrick Underwood, who was killed among these riots. Those are our police officers. They are our best. They are our brightest. They're absolute places of injustice. We're addressing those. We're looking at legislative proposals and EOs, and what ultimately is determined, we'll see in the coming days as to what will work as a policy prescription. But stop vilifying our officers, because they deserve better than that. They're out there. They're working hard. 750 injured just in the last week and a half, and we need to recognize that. Yes.
Back on the Buffalo protester, is the president disappointed that more Republicans have not lined up to support the questions he asked, to use your characterization of it, which many people also characterize
It says she's like, oh, a softball.
as a conspiracy theory? And secondly, has the president reached out either to the injured gentleman or to the police officers involved?
So first of all, President Trump, I would say, he's not focused on what Republicans are saying or not saying on the Hill. He's focused on making changes. As I said, he's been diligently hard at work the last.
He's called Putin more often than he's called the Republican leadership in the last 2 weeks. So that should give you some indication.
Days, and that is where his focus squarely lies at the moment. Yes.
Thanks, Kelly. And has he reached out to either the gentleman or the...
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, information is not important to his decision-making process. As a matter of fact, he thinks of it as antithetical to his decision. The more he knows, he believes the worse decisions he will make. So he tries to keep himself completely in the dark. It's basically the same attitude he has towards exercise. He believes that you have a finite number of heartbeats, and if you exercise, you speed up your heartbeat, and you should save any extra heartbeats you have for watching hookers pee.
Not that I'm aware of. Hello. Yes.
You started this briefing reading off some statistics about success of mitigation efforts on the spread of COVID, but we're now seeing a spike in cases in more than a dozen states and increased hospitalizations in a lot of those as well. So, and many public health experts attribute these spikes to Memorial Day weekend gatherings and other aspects of the reopening process before these mass protests.
Let me find it. I find it. I have the lie right here. I had it right here. I had it. It's in here somewhere. Let me see. Is that it? No, that's not it. Let me see. Is it on that page? Am I on the right page? Yeah. So I got my Burke's notes right here. Let me see.
And should we be slowing down a little bit on the reopening process as we see cases spike?
So I have a whole half a page here. Let me just talk around that for a second.
First, let me know as it pertains to Memorial Day. A week ago today, the vice president's team told me I wasn't in task force that day, but that it was said that in fact that there was no linkage to Memorial Day as being some point of spurring wild outbreaks and rises across the nation.
Why? Because they said so?
What I would say, though, I talked to Dr. Burke.
Hey,
and
Rob.
She said, what we've
been
seen
on live in a bit because I can't handle Caleb Kennedy's special kind of evil. Thanks for doing it every day, Hal. You rock. No, you rock, Rob. Thank you. Good Lord.
Is that in general, April averaged out to be about 30,000 cases a day. May was about 25,000 cases a day. Currently, we're at around 20,000 cases a day. And you've got to look.
Yeah, because New York, California, and Seattle and places where it broke out initially have brought it down for the work they've done, and the red states are going up and they have fewer people in them. But when the spread hits, it will affect more people, and a lot more people in those states have all the comorbidity issues. You got way more obesity in the red states. The fat of the, like, what is it? Six of the fattest states in the country are red states. All of the top 10 are red states.
In a nuanced way at each of these states, like.
Thanks, Benny Loco. Yeah, everybody give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe. Think about becoming a patron. We need 500. You could be one. It's a cup of coffee a month. I mean, it's not a big deal. And when I go back to doing live shows, there's kind of like, there's perks and all kinds of fun stuff.
Texas is one of the places where they're saying we're seeing a steady slope, not a huge rise, but part of it's in due to the fact that they're testing in long-term care facilities and in prisons, and the more testing you do, the more cases you identify.
Yeah, notice she said identify, whereas the president says have. Thanks, Benny Loco.
Can I ask a follow-up? President Trump is planning to restart campaign rallies within the next few weeks. What sort of precautions is he going to be taking at his rallies?
None.
For the safety of the rally goers?
None.
We have no rallies announced just yet. You're right about the 2-week timeline that was put forward, but we will ensure that everyone who goes is safe, but no specific announcements on that front. And I would direct you to the campaign for more information on that. Yeah.
The answer is none.
Yes, thanks for taking my question. Owen Jensen with EWTN News. We've seen thousands of people in the streets protesting, exercising their constitutional right, those, of course, doing it peacefully. At the same time, churches in many cases told to limit their gatherings, in some cases to 10 or no more. Does the president see a double standard there constitutionally?
You have no control over rioters and people peaceably assembling in the streets and stuff, but you can talk to the organizations and say, hey guys, don't hold services because they have addresses, as opposed to out in the street. There's nobody to talk to tell the individuals to not come out on the street. You can't find the. All right.
Speaking, and if, can you explain, please?
There are absolute double standards that we've seen, and that's why the Justice Department set up a task force, if you will, or a group to look at civil liberties as during coronavirus shutdowns. I read about one case where you had an allowance of outside gathering and protest, but indoor churches could not gather, even with socially distanced protocols. He absolutely sees an issue. There have been several cases pointed to where people attending church in their cars were targeted by law enforcement officers. So that's unacceptable. People should be allowed to worship. We have a First Amendment in this country.
Thank you, Rebecca. New cases and clusters popping up all over Kansas. It's absolutely ridiculous how many idiots live here. Yeah, they said 85% of people are pro wearing masks and 15% are against it. And that's why I tweeted. I was like, I must live near all of the 15%.
There's a way to safely do it. I went to Mass and was able to safely attend distance from people.
Because it's a giant church in a very nice neighborhood where nobody shares. Yeah, but you strip mall Christians are on your own.
And there were appropriate protocols that were taken in that case, and that's what we hope to see, as the president made eminently clear a few weeks ago.
I don't know what. Does anybody know what? Hold on, let me. I got to look this one up too. That's a good question. It seems like an OAN kind of a moment, for me. Whatever. EWTN. Oh, it's the Global Catholic Network. What does EWTN stand for? Entire World Television Network, the Global Catholic Network. Defending life. Oh, it's the founded by Mother Angelica, a cloistered nun, and then I guess she's the foundress of it. Launched August 15, 1981. Many felt a little demand for Catholic. In fact, she fulfilled a promise to our Lord in the early 1960s by founding Lady of Angels Monastery in Irondale, Alabama. She had no idea she wanted to be the largest religious media center in the world. There you go. So EWTN News is they're the CBN of Catholicism.
Not too long ago, he asked for all churches to reopen. Is he happy with the progress or no?
He's happy with the progress. I've seen in fact.
It's not. It's out of Eternal World Television Network. That's lovely. It's out of Alabama.
That very week, a church that I visited.
You can watch shows like Father Spitzer's Universe, Father Swallow's show was canceled. Holy Rosary and Litany of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. That seems reasonable in a normal production of a Catholic thing. Saint Philip Neri, the dramatic life of the man once called the Third Apostle of Rome. That sounds like a fun show. Spread the faith with a gift to our eternal world. Oh, and give money.
Reopened a church down the road from me. So I think he gave a lot of courage to the faith community to reopen.
The church down the road from me. It's the one. It's a show. It's going to be on Lifetime. It's a Christmas thing. We're working on it.
And to do so safely. And look here.
What happened?
We are, I think, 4 weeks later, and we haven't been hearing about, rampant outbreaks in places of worship. The First Amendment's a beautiful thing. People have a right to go to church or mosque.
Issue with Opus Dei? Is Opus Dei? Can you be a woman and be a member of Opus Dei? I don't think so.
Synagogue. Yes.
Yes.
I think she's just like the pro-life wing.
Kevin, thanks. Still on COVID.
Oh, thanks, Hal Vickery. It's run by crazy Franciscans, as you do.
The
Tropic Thunder churches.
presidency.
Yeah, that's the whatever. In Tropic Thunder, Satan's Alley was the name of the movie that Robert Downey Jr.'s character won the Oscar and the coveted Beijing Crying Monkey Award, and with Tobey Maguire. And little known fact, that movie, Satan's Alley, is actually named after the music production that's in the John Travolta sequel to Saturday Night Fever, Staying Alive. He does a show called Satan's Alley on that. So
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Pretty unconcerned so far about November and the COVID situation, and whether people are going to be afraid to go to the polls or whether there's going to be a lot of delay.
we hope so. I mean, really. Anything that brings the voting numbers down is good for us. So that's reason enough for us to encourage people to get out, get sick.
Because of the COVID, he recently said it's a long way off, I think meaning that the pandemic would have died down by then, essentially. But given that it hasn't actually gone away, people are obviously still dying every day, and there are some spikes, and it's not that far away, 5 months. Are any measures being taken at all to guarantee that this election is going to go smoothly and everyone who wants to vote can vote?
Yeah, well, I've not seen much criticism of the protest and socially distanced and mitigation efforts. I think
They're not, and those aren't organized groups. Those are situations where people are coming out spontaneously onto the street. You don't have any control over that. Stupid.
there's a way to safely vote if you can safely protest, and that's what the president would like to see. There's a way to safely vote. There's a way to safely go to church, and you're asking a hypothetical about something 5 months from now at a time, ironically, when the media hasn't expressed much outrage about a lack of mitigation efforts taken by some of the protesters.
Just wondering about the election. That's what everyone
Raquel.
cares about.
Thank you
Raquel, you're in the book of lies.
so much, Katie. Two questions. First, is the president concerned the protest could lead to another outbreak of coronavirus? And a second question, President Trump said that he does not believe the death toll in coronavirus cases figures from some countries. Does he trust the figure from Brazil? Is the White House concerned that the Brazilian government is hiding information about COVID-19?
So I haven't spoken to him about the Brazil numbers, but I have heard him on several cases, probably at least 5, mention that he's
That I should have a Brazilian. He keeps saying that.
seen what's going on in Brazil, and he was hurt to see how many people have been affected by COVID down there. So he has mentioned Brazil specifically. I believe he even sent some ventilators to Brazil because we had such an overflow of ventilators here because America really
Because we found out that the outcome of people on ventilators is pretty low. So any country we're now sending ventilators to, they should take it as an act of war.
under the leadership of President Trump, snapped into action and shored up what was supposed to be a ventilator shortage and delivered, this administration delivered. So I would just note that he's mentioned great concern for the people of Brazil.
Katie, just the first question that I asked, is the president concerned the protests could lead to another outbreak of coronavirus?
No, he thinks it's behind us all.
We're monitoring that. Right now we're encouraged.
If it does happen, we will be blaming the protests. We will not be blaming redneck soup in the Ozarks.
See that cases have declined month over month, but the vice president, as I walked out here, said the task force is well aware and monitoring individual situations in particular states.
Yeah.
Niels.
Kaylee, thank you. Going back to where you started with the statement about renaming the military bases, if Congress were to send over, say, the defense authorization with language that were to rename one of these bases for someone who, say, was a general who won the Civil War, would the president veto the defense authorization?
The president will not be signing legislation that renames America's forts.
So that's a yes. Again, what I say, take them down, name them after white abolitionists who, generals, name them after somebody like one of the dudes who dropped Fat Man and Little Boy, and he wouldn't go for it.
Important to
Because when she says we as a country and us, she means she's a part of the Confederacy.
note, Fort Bragg, for example, it's one of the largest military installations.
Who cares?
It's home to tens of thousands of brave American soldiers.
So, who many of whom are minorities, and many of whom probably are slightly bugged by the fact that they're training in a facility named after a losing general that attacked America.
And when you think of Fort Bragg, we think of the brave soldiers that deployed from there. We think of all 5 World War II airborne divisions.
When we think of Germany, we think of, like all Auschwitz all the time. We don't think of modern Germany. We all imagine Berlin the way it should be, divided by a wall with tanks and guns.
The 2nd, the 101st, the 11th, the 13th, and the 17th, all trained at Fort Bragg.
So, what the shit does the name have to do with it?
The 5.
Does naming any new base that's built change the quality of the soldier that comes out of that place? If they're not named after a Confederate general, if they go to another base, are they less important?
50.
What kind of goofy
Parachute
bullshit?
Infantry Battalion. This was the first black parachute battalion trained.
Yeah, and they trained in a facility named after a Civil War general who lost fighting to keep them from being recognized as human. You dipshit.
At this fort. We must recognize the sacrifices made by these men and women, some of whom saw Fort Bragg for the last time before they went overseas. We've got to think of the Fort Bragg soldiers that have led humanitarian operations like in Hurricane Katrina and the earthquake in Haiti. We've got to honor what has happened there, not rename it. So that is an absolute non-starter for the president.
So that's going to happen under the Biden administration, is what you're saying.
I would also note.
One more question on that.
Yeah, John.
One more question on that. General David Petraeus is one of those people who went through Fort Bragg a number of times, even though his first command was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He penned a quite lengthy and detailed editorial about the reasons why those bases should be renamed, saying it's ironic that American soldiers and Marines are being trained at bases named for people who fought against the Union back in the Civil War, that many of the people for whom these bases are named were leaders held in questionable regard, but who were elevated during the Lost Cause movement. He goes on to say, we do not live in a country.
I'm sorry. All of my history starts in 1984 in a mall. I don't really.
To which Braxton Bragg, Henry L. Banning, or Robert E. Lee can serve as an inspiration. What does the White House say to that particular point of view?
Fort Bragg is known for the heroes within it that trained there, that deployed from there, and it's an insult to say to the men and women who left there the last thing they saw on American soil before going overseas.
No, they went over. They died for the freedom of everyone in the country. And one of the things that resulted from them sacrificing their lives was the base that they were trained at was changed in its name from that of a Confederate general to an abolitionist or a soldier from the very same war they fought in that earned it. What?
And in some cases, losing their lives to tell them that what they.
By the way, do you think that if somebody said we should allow the military to be supported by private industry, that the president would be against changing these names to like Fort FedEx? Are you shitting me? Of course he would.
Left was inherently a racist institution because of a name. That's unacceptable.
No, it isn't. Don't invert it on him. They're saying that the place is so honorable, it deserves better than a racist name.
President, and rightfully so. And I would also note, where do you
That, look, I don't come out here without sleeves on accident.
draw the line here? I'm told that no longer can you find
Yeah, we should name one of them Fort McCain. I think that's a great idea. Oh, by the way, also, if somebody put a bill on his desk to rename Fort Bragg Fort Trump, I mean, he would break his arm signing that shit. He'd have a pile of pens this high on the side of his desk, and he'd be chucking it at everybody in the room.
on HBO Gone with the Wind, because somehow that is
Thank you, nameless Periscope person.
now offensive. Where do you draw the line? Should George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and
No, because they fought for the Union. They established a cause greater than themselves. They aspired to something that was even beyond their grasp intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally. They saw a future better than the future they were handed.
James Madison be erased from history? What about
No, you're not being erased from history if we don't name a military base after you. You're still in the history books, dummy. You just don't get to have a military base named after you if you attack the United States.
FDR and because of internment camps?
Fort McCain does sound tight, and I'm for it.
You know, should he be erased from history, or Lyndon Johnson, who has a history of documented racist statements? And finally,
Yeah, he signed the Civil Rights Act even though he was raised a racist. I will take somebody who was raised racist, was comfortable with that kind of language, and who still brought himself around to sign the Civil Rights Act. That's a human being growing and understanding life. Just because you were born indoctrinated into some thought, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by Montessori school liberals who suddenly think the world ought to think like them. I'm much more impressed by somebody who came up in another, give me a Southern liberal anytime. But why this? All right.
what about people that are alleged by the media to be segregationist? NBC tells us Joe Biden didn't just compromise with segregationists. He fought for their causes in schools, experts say. CNN tells us letters.
Oh, really? What about Donald Trump? Do you think he would not want an aircraft carrier? Do you think he's going to say, "Don't name an aircraft carrier or a base after me"? My father and I cut our teeth denying black people rent in apartments in New York City.
Joe Biden reveal how he sought support of segregationists in the fight against busing.
Right.
Washington Post tells us that Biden's tough talk on 1970s schools desegregation plans could get him new scrutiny, and there are several more where that came from. So,
Yeah. Have you looked at who the black community trusts? And again, I'm much more comfortable with somebody who came around on an idea than someone who pretends to have had it all along or had it all along because you're just a purist. And if you'd been brought up going to Jesus camp, you'd be a prick too.
with the question, should we then rename the Biden Welcome Center? Thanks very much, guys.
I'm gonna walk out with a little campaign thing and take I'm taking my bundle of lies and going home. Wow, there's just like a weird march of like, this is a new sitcom happening called The One Jared. Come, join me. Let us all walk away. Hide ourselves. Has he got a problem with like brunettes in the White House? Do they all have to dye their hair blonde? All of them? I don't doubt it, Deirdre. I don't doubt it. Good grief. By the way, that was, I so want her. Well, I understand. And here's the thing. My problem with that has always been the idea that pretty only goes so far when you're that ugly inside. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of a huge part of this. Is that it's one of those situations where you would just go, like, you would feel like you'd look at yourself in the mirror after you had sex and went, God damn it. This is so awful, Let's see. I think I have, let me see if this is actually working right now. Chatting. Let's see if this brings up properly. I think it will or does or should, unless I have to open it in another. Oh, no, there it is. Yeah, so now I can talk to you guys. Hi. All I see is their soul. It's hideous. Yeah, it's like I look at Kayleigh McEnany like I'm wearing the glasses from They Live. When my dad fought in World War II, he went through Fort Bragg. Hold on, where's this? Oh hell, yeah. Went through Fort Bragg. He was shocked by the law that black folks had to walk in the street while he was a white soldier who had just fought for freedom, walked on the sidewalk. Yeah. Most of my family are conservative. There's a lot of that going around. It's no coincidence she ended the briefing session early. No. I like Fort Puppies. That's great. Yeah, there are 200 folks watching in here. Give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff. You know, make the show, you know, be able to continue after all this. Not so I don't have to shelve it as soon as I get a real job again after all this stuff lifts. I'm planning on continuing though, as best I can, with rare exception. So we'll just build and build and build. If that base was the first African-American Air Corps training, maybe find a name that relates to him. I agree. Like, you can't find black war heroes. Fort George Carlin. I like Fort George Floyd. That'll never happen, but I appreciate that. Hey, Richard. Good to see you, man. It's been such a long time. I think I should be going. Thanks, Melinda. I'm here for you, too. That's why we're here. Appreciate that, Richard. That was very sweet of you. Appreciate it. No shelving. This is, oh, yes. All right. This is mandatory. I'm glad you think so. And I appreciate the boosts you do on, Jeff Ninecow, you know, with the consigliere talk to the DNC and all that kind of stuff. I appreciate that. It means a lot. I see it. I want you to know that. Don't freak out that I added Lindsay backballs at night. Yeah. How would you, let's just do a little kind of thought experiment. How would you feel if you were in, one of the first out groups of LGBT soldiers that deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq or some other fighting area, and you deployed from, I don't know, Fort Lindsey Graham, or, you know, and I mean, wouldn't you feel a little about that? I prevented my own death or sickness. I think that's wise. We try to do that. Thanks, Can't Stop Lying. Yeah, on Twitch, you guys can do the little emotes. There's a couple of them, and members on YouTube are now available. I think. Does it work? I don't know. I haven't even tried it. But there is a Zoltan emoji that you guys can only use for closet. That's right. Yeah, you'd be pissed. Exactly. Fort Thurgood Marshall. That's a great idea. USS Anita Bryant. All right, there you go. Somebody's been watching Mrs. America, I think. Why can't we put that to a vote? I want the people to vote who actually went there and trained there. There must be some left. No, because you don't want the soldiers to have to vote on stuff. You don't want to make their existence political. That is up to Fort Tuskegee is a great idea. You don't want to make it up to the soldiers to get political to solve a problem the rest of us should be able to solve. Thank you, Christina, for continuing to the Daily House Park Show and chat. I appreciate all you do with us. Oh, thank you. I'm glad to see you here every day. It's lovely. Or teabag the South. Many of you know that one of my favorite books was written by a Confederate general, but a guy who would arguably, you could say, transitioned towards the North, much to the chagrin of the Southerners. And that's why he has a bust in Washington, D.C. He's the only Confederate general that has a bust in Washington, D.C. Because of his belief in equality. And his initial kind of like pushback on, you know, because of geography, where he was in the Carolinas, pushing back against, you know, what they thought were property rights at the beginning, and then going, oh, no, this is just about slavery, forget it, and basically transitioning. And a ton of people did that, by the way. Yeah, everybody give the peace sign, because that's what George Floyd would have wanted, according to his family. By the way, I mean, made in blueberries, in case you're wondering. Because people always ask me, Summer calls it my Tony Robbins or my Tony Stark snack. All war sucks, even the moral wars. Yeah, but you have to make a decision, domestic. Does the moral war suck worse than letting the other side win? It was one of those things. Give blue babies. Am I blurry? Did I move back too far? There you go. Sorry. Might happen sometimes. Sometimes I move back and it's got a very narrow depth of field. I apologize. There were lots of black Union soldiers that were significant enough to replace the name of one of these folks. So, yeah. There's lots of options. Streets within, like the roads within the actual place could be named after, you know, heroic people who served on those bases. I think they should come from those bases. I think you should, when you build a new base, it should be named after the state where it is until such time as there's someone who sacrifices their life or whatever, or someone from that, maybe you could name it after somebody from that state that gave their life a long time ago, and name the base after them. And then within the base, you name all the streets after, you know, because there's lots of rows and lanes and buildings. Name those buildings after the soldiers that gave their lives or served there for a long time, because it doesn't have to be ever just people who died. So yeah, snacks are very important. I was probably out of, if I lean too far back, I get fuzzy, you know, because it's, like I said, it's got a narrow sports snacks. So I think that's one of the things we all focus on. Now, I want to see if I can find the footage. Fences being removed from, White House. Yeah. This is being removed. Yeah, I'll find it somewhere else. I wasn't able to find it there. Yeah, it would be nice to. They tend not to do that like streets. They tend not to name them after people who are still alive because they still have a chance to screw up. And ruin it for everybody. Oh, there'll be an attempt to name one after him. They'll name something after him. He's a president. I would just name all the bilge pumps on the ships after him, but or only the ones that break. The SS Trump. Yeah. So whole administration's been a long George Zimmerman white victim rant. Yeah. Is Zimmerman technically white? Are we looking at Zimmerman as white? Because as far as I know, he's actually Hispanic. But that's, that's neither here nor there. A lot of times it has more to do with what people picture themselves as. Trump, yeah. No. The Trump library would have a copy of Mein Kampf. Supposedly he had it on his nightstand, according to divorce papers that were filed, right? Yeah. I'm going to move this up here so I can actually see you guys, so I don't have to put this same thing up here. He isn't really white. He just tried to be in the club. Yeah. That's what I think, right? Anyways. He's an Hispanic with a Jewish name who self-identifies as a white supremacist. What a curious mental illness that is. 40 years he slept next to Mein Kampf. Yeah, right. And still doesn't get it. Obama has The Witcher. If people have a honey bucket outside the office, we can rename it Trump Dump. Right. A honey bucket. Ouch. Yes, Spanish is from Spain. It is a European language. That's true. China. That is he going to have his the Trump library will be in China. Just walked in my living room to let Cody in and heard McConnell griping about marchers on the street, but church is still closed. Yeah, that was the thing from the guy from the Catholic from EWTN as well. That's a running story that they're throwing together. Move this up so it's a little easier to see. Get up there, you rat. He'll be in Russia, right? I don't know. I think it'll cost him too much. Some generation Hispanic American ancestors from Spain. Yeah. That's why I always think it's funny when people are like, that Mexico's like heritage is speaking Spanish, or that English is the European language that took over the United States and largely Canada is somehow less valid than Spanish, which is the other European language that took over a good portion of South America. Yeah, I have no idea what his library will consist of. Cleanest, yeah. Both English and Spanish are colonizers' language. Yeah, I mean, there are, you could argue that the Sioux language is also a colonizer's language if you ask the Pawnee Indians or the Comanche. French would be the same thing. So is Dutch, right? So is Swahili if you ask the outlying territories in Africa. How far do you have to travel to be a colonizer? Is it only work when you leave the continent? Or is it when you establish... oh, thanks. I'm glad you like the coronavirus. You know? We have the fastest library, the quickest. You go in there, you're in and out, 10 minutes. Been nice to see the global protests and solidarity. I agree. I don't like it when they seem to be all about American racism, especially in countries where they still have Black Peter and characters like that. But they're trying. You know what I mean? You know me, can't stop lying. I'll take allies whenever they show up, as imperfect as they are. Comanches were amazing warriors. They could have taken the Mongols. What does that say about the Sioux? Because the Sioux ended up with most of their land. One village over, you're a colonizer? Well, then the Navajo have some explaining to do. And Ocasio-Cortez might want to cut her name in half and just use the Ocasio part. Maybe. Let's see. Brooklyn is a name. In Dutch, it means broken land. Also have over 170 cultures living there. Yeah. Snacks. I'm almost out. That's the thing. I think really how much conquering you do, you have to have a lot of property. A lot of times it's about resources. You know? Yeah, B. Gabriel, there won't be QuickBooks there. That involves taxes, and we're not going to see his taxes. Yeah. Ocasio-Cortez, I'm just saying. Cortez is why there's 25 million less Mayans or Aztecs in whatever, 18 months? Peanuts are a good time. Blueberry less than lowest wages. Yeah, it's sad when you run out. It's hard because I like fresh blueberries and I like dried blueberries, but I don't like freeze-dried blueberries. And we see a bunch of that. Thank you, Benny Loco. He's got his whole heart, and then it goes all the way to China. He's got a hole in his heart that goes all the way to China. I see. Rocky Mountain Mike, you might want to take her up on that one. Hey, you guys know, by the way, that I spent a good deal of time in China. And can I show you guys something? A product I think you should actually get. Hang out one second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go pick up something. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna grab it. You should be able to still hear me. So I'm gonna go pick something up. You doing good, Cam? Hi. You're gonna hear me kissing my girlfriend. Don't be embarrassed. First of all, I would like to say I am not a doctor, but I've played one in grade school. Yeah, that was a good one. It was a solid kiss. So so while we were all in lockdown, there was obviously a good deal of people who were worried about going to the doctor and too many people out there to be sick or whatever. And I of course injured myself right at the beginning of it, cut my leg, and was treating it at home, and it got kind of gnarly. I was worried for a little bit. I didn't let on while we were working while I was doing the show or whatever. But there were a couple days I was limping away from doing the show right on the inside of my knee, just really bad. And then it got kind of awful. So I was treating it with, peroxide and rubbing alcohol like you're supposed to. I was keeping it clean, but for whatever reason, it was not healing like it should. Thanks, Michael. And I recalled that when I was in China, I had picked up something that everybody was touting over there that they use for healing, that apparently everybody, it was starting to get a little green. It was not good. So I was like, okay, I don't know if that I'll be able to go to a doctor. This is the height of it. This is right in the middle of like cases rising, spiking, everybody staying home. And I was like, I'm going to go out and deal with this and get sicker because I had this thing. So I got to treat it at home. And I was trying everything I had. And then you have to clean it out. I just used it to clean it out is what I'm saying, Melinda. But anyways, so when I was in China the last time, I got this stuff, and you won't be able to see it. It's called Yunnan Baiyao. It's Yunnan white powder is basically what it is. And it's they usually get it in little packets, and you literally put this dust on it, and it helps stuff heal or whatever. But they also had a spray. So when I was over there, I was like, I picked some of it up, and it had been in my bag. It had been in my suitcase that I took to China since I got back, in like a little pocket there. And I was like, I know. Put your hand behind it and then hold it up. Right. I know what I need to do. I need to turn off this light. There you go. And it won't do it, but I'll put the name of it in the chat room, but it's called Yunnan Baiyao. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not suggesting any da-da-da, but yes, white powder. It's apparently, they call it, they pretend now, the Chinese love this. They love to pretend this comes from China. It's actually from, it's like, they're like, oh, it's from Yunnan in China. It's from Yunnan, which is Vietnam. They borrowed it from Vietnam. Vietnam had it, and Vietnam, apparently this is the stuff that made the North Vietnamese so hard to fight, because they would spray it in bullet holes and it would heal faster and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's not made out of tigers. It's largely plant-based. There's no baseline coagulants in it or whatever. You can see that right on the stuff that's on. I'm kidding. It's in Chinese. But anyways, I was like, I wonder if you can get this on Amazon, and you can. It's hydrochloroquine in a spray. I'm not recommending this for everybody. I'm just saying this was the anecdotal story that they put out, and it worked like a charm. It was great. So like, it's kind of, it's like super Bactine. Think of it that way. It's not going to cure anything necessarily, but it's good for healing. That's what they sell it as. And you can, there you go. Thanks, Cat Lion. Yeah. It's a Chinese medicine. they use it all the time. Yes, it just got gnarly because I couldn't treat it, Lowrider Sky. Like I couldn't go to the hospital or the doctor. It was deep enough. It was a deep wound. It was a cut. It was a serious cut. So, anyways, it's not like a styptic. It does sting a little bit, but it's kind of both. It's got like an all of the above kind of thing. But I'm just saying, I will have this in my house forever. I'm just saying. So again, this is not a medical directive. I'm not a doctor telling you what to do. Speak to your healthcare professionals. But I found that having this in my first aid kit was incredibly valuable. Yunnan Baiyao is what it's called. So there you go. There you go. Mercurochrome, yeah. This definitely stings like heck. It does not sting like hell. It's not all that bad. But they have it like available in a bunch of ways. Anyways, so I read that as butthole powder. That's hilarious. So yeah, it's a traditional Chinese medicine that's been around for a long time, and people will. So that's what it's called. Whoops, Yunnan. By there you go. Yunnan Baiyao. There you go. So anyways, I'm just saying have it in your first aid kit. It's solid for that kind of stuff. In my experience, results may vary. Talk to your doctor. Yeah, do your research. But what have you got to lose, right? But yeah, that's the Yunnan Baiyao store. Like there's a bunch of different ways you can get it, but they do it in a bunch of different ways. And like I said, there's all kinds of stuff that they give. It's for like blood disorders and that kind of stuff. It just worked for that cut. I cannot speak to its viability for other stuff at all. And the Chinese will talk out the ass about a lot of things as if they will cure everything. But I credit this stuff with the turnaround in healing that cut. And I make no money off this. I am not trying to raise any money off that. I am just saying that's my suggestion. I've been wanting to talk about that for a little bit, and it was good stuff. So there, that's the only time I'm ever going to make medical suggestions that are not nutritional or dietary. You're right. Yes, it's a hemostatic. It stops bleeding is the idea. I don't own stock in any Chinese company because that's absurd. Yeah, Baiyao is one word. That's right. But you can get it on Amazon and stuff. It's there. So yeah, I appreciate that, Flying Doodle. No worries. So that in and of itself, like, I thought I'd add that as a little point of value for you guys. No more zippers. Oh, I will. That's a good idea. I'll put it on my Amazon. Let's see if I can open my Amazon site, and I'll put it in one of the workout things, and I'll. And then there's actually some stuff in there. Somebody actually been buying stuff. I don't pay any attention to this. So product links. I'll add that in there and then send you guys a link for it if you're interested at all. That's very smart. Now I am theoretically making money off of it. Now I'm going to get in trouble. Fort Hood to Gordon Granger. Sure. All right, I'm gonna have to find the kind that I have. Rheumatism plaster. These people are crazy. Largely, they have it for dogs. So it's good for your pets if they have bleeding problems. That's good. It's wonderful that you can do that for them. I'll find the one that I have and post a link to it or whatever. I don't think it matters, which is the good part, but there you go. Yeah, I'll find it somehow. But you guys, I'm gonna sign off and go feed the kid. You guys are wonderful. Yeah, there's links in below to get to the Amazon stores as well. Yeah, when you cut your dog's nail, that's right. Hold on. Take this. I'll make sure that that's in the YouTube descriptives as well going forward. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in there, and like pretty much like books I grew up on, music stuff, gear, stuff I use on the road when I'm traveling, which is a weird assortment. You can almost like see my personality in a YouTube store, or I mean, sorry, in an Amazon store. It's pretty hilarious. My high school girlfriend made me a mustard plaster once when I was sick. It was amazing. Yeah. Let's see. I'm glad it healed your life. It did. I definitely credit it. It changed the whole direction of it. It was like, this was starting to worry me, and then I sprayed it with that stuff pretty regularly and just put a light gauze on it, and yeah. It took a couple of days. Knew I was supposed to do something with that bulby thing, right? So if they invented a time machine, please don't kill baby Hitler or baby Benetol. Baby Benito. I see, with an exclamation point. I didn't see the two pieces of, yeah. Again, because that only changes your future. It doesn't change the past for everybody else. It just jumps you off the timeline where they lived and leaves the rest of us to deal with Hitler and Benito Mussolini the way they did, according to the Avengers timeline of time, which seems to be the most well thought out in fictiondom. Yeah, so take care of yourselves, guys. I'm just gonna sign off. I appreciate you guys. I will be posting video later on of Camden and I doing the Twitch fit ring thing that they do. That's the exercise thing. Right before the show, I came up. I was like up to 20 minutes right before I came on the air today. I was doing it or whatever, and I was quite sweaty. It was very good. It was a good workout. I was enjoying it quite thoroughly. So good health to everyone in that. Also, Avengers rules. I agree. Let's all go watch Captain America: First Avenger again to remind us what heroism looks like in a lovely fictional story. You guys, much blessings to you. I appreciate you guys showing up. Thanks to all our Patreon supporters. Thanks to the Super Chatters today. Thanks to Michael Anderson and Benny Loco and Christina F. and Ninka Crinkles and Melinda and Richard McNeil. Thank you so much. And Rebecca Barwig, thank you. And Christina F. Yeah, amazing. Brian, right out of the gate too today. I appreciate that. And thanks for all the bits and subs on Twitch. If you're not subscribed on Twitch, and if you're an Amazon Prime member, and let's say you don't do Twitch very often, you can go to my Twitch channel and subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it's sort of another way you can Patreon the show, and it doesn't cost you anything. Just saying, you get a free one every month. You can throw it my way if you're not in the gamer world. And if you are in the gamer world, you can subscribe, with your parents' money like everybody else does. I'm kidding. Ask their permission. Yunen Bayao, give it a shot. Try it out. What have you got to lose? I was like, I think the president's speech, and I'll end on this. I think the president's speech is going to be called "What else have you got to lose?" And I'm calling it. So take care of yourselves. Bye, everybody. You guys are awesome. See you next time. Yes, it benefits me through Amazon Prime. That's how it works. Yeah.
You have nobody guarding your potatoes.
I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town.
Did you hear that? Yeah. It's a dickper. What's a dickper? To pee with.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the store.
We need you. Hell, I need you. I'm a mess without you. I miss you so damn much. I miss being with you. I miss being near you. I miss your laugh. I miss your scent. I miss your musk. When this all gets sorted out, I think you and me should get an apartment together.
Just follow the money.
That's great psychology. Why don't you just say something bad about my mother?
I guess what I learned most of all was that you should always take responsibility for your actions, unless you don't have to. I feel no shame, only pride, because my syphilis is a badge of honor.
That was really cool, by the way.
Am I getting through to you? Alpha!
Just the facts, ma'am.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Every minute you don't tell us why you're here, I cut off a finger. Mine or yours? Yours. Damn.
Shop smart, shop S-smart.
You using the whole piss doc? Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
Moon River.
He thinks I made it up.
Unbelievable.
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President, Mike Pence, and his wonderful wife, Karen.
I never thought anybody could forget so much so fast without a severe blow to the head.